There. So, here we are beginning the lecture for Thursday, the 7th of January, 2020, after having seen the introductory videos, which I will post for those of you who are seeing this online, and which I have played for those who are here in person in class. What we did is we looked over another version of the Romulus-Remus tale that had something of a different emphasis. And then we went into a recitation of the Aeneid, and in addition, I showed a funny, well, to me, production of Yeats's version of Sophocles' story of Oedipus Rex, with a young William Shatner and some of the most bizarre stagecraft I have ever even heard of. So, let's look at Aeneas now. The Aeneid is not even a product of early Roman times. It is a product of the Augustan age that looks back on Roman times. So, in other words, this is historical fiction. And it was historical fiction with a purpose. What Aeneas chose to do, what Virgil chose to do, was to try to do a sequel to the two stories of the Iliad and the Odyssey. And this sequel would connect those two legends to the founding of Rome. But he was making it up, largely by adapting Homeric motifs and plot devices and a bunch of other things to create a story that had some harmonic connection with the Iliad and the Odyssey. In other words, he retold a lot of their tales with now Virgil as the hero. Now, Aeneas survives the destruction of Troy by running and hiding. He then flees the area of Ilium in western Anatolia and is searching for a new home, which he doesn't know where it is. In his journeys, he falls in love with and is fallen in love with by Dido, Queen of Carthage. Carthage, yes, is older than Rome. It was a colony of the Phoenicians. But Aeneas cannot stay in Carthage, and Dido kills herself. The story of Dido and Aeneas is told and retold many times, I believe in opera form as well. So if you want to see an interesting opera, look up Dido and Aeneas. Then, Aeneas arrives, and through a series of machinations becomes a Latin king and indirectly an ancestor of Romulus and Remus. So, Romans can look back and see not only that their founders were Latins and Etruscans setting up a toll booth on a toll road at the ford over the Tiber River, not only can they look back and say that their founder was a guy raised by wolves who killed his brother, who even has a connection to the god of war, and who was taken up into heaven in the body, and apotheosized, made into a god, but also through another lineage, the Romans have the proud blood of Hector and Priam and the other Trojans and their legacy flowing through their veins and through their culture. Is it a fit myth for the as a successor to Homer's stories? Well, read it. Be the judge yourself. And if you really want to make Mr. Williams proud or make your parents proud or whatever, get good enough at reading Latin to read it in the original Latin. I've never done this because I don't speak Latin, but it sounds like an interesting thing to do. It would be like reading the commentaries on the Gallic Wars by Caesar in the original Latin. In any event, so there we are with the foundational myths of Rome. Now let's look at the foundation itself. In Caesar's time, scholars decide that the foundation of Rome, ab urbe condita, AUC, from the foundation of the city, from the foundation of the city of Rome. That Rome was founded in the year, according to our calendar, 753 BC. That's 753 years before Christ. Now, the Romans obviously do not use the Christian dating system. And as the Republic develops, they don't usually even count their years. They name their years based on the consul and the proconsul, the two leaders and executives of the Roman Republic. So by that legacy, this year started in the fourth year of Trump and Pence. I was born in the first year of Johnson and Humphrey. That would be our president and vice president. So the Romans count time a little differently. But as we calculate it and as they calculate it, Rome was founded in 753 BC. So Roman dates, ab urbi comita, are from that foundation of Rome. To the extent they count years, they will count it. And that means in the 240s AD, the Romans celebrate 1,000 years of existence. Urbe Condita, from the foundation of the city, AUC, not AOC. So, there we are with foundation. Now, let's look at the early history. Why? It seems like we're dealing with air conditioning right now. Okay. So the first period of actual historical history, as opposed to semi-mythological history or archaeology, if the fan bothers you, please move, is a time when Rome is under Etruscan rule. Now, who are these Etruscans? Well, we know some things. We know what they built that survives. Archaeologists go through their garbage piles and find everything from coprolites that solidified human waste to broken cutlery, and they also see the buildings and the murals and things like that. And we know what Romans and Greeks said about the Etruscans. But the fact remains, we don't know anything about the Etruscans in their own words because we can't read what they wrote. We haven't yet cracked the code of their language. But to get a sense of how deeply the Etruscans shaped Rome, the Roman gods, as you probably know already, are variants of the Greek gods, but they are much more serious. They are much less frivolous. They are much more dangerous. And this dangerousness comes from the Etruscans. When an Etruscan died, they knew what would happen. The fearsome gods of this world will harrow, rip at, and rend at the souls of the newly dead on their way from this world to the afterlife, so that by the time they arrive in the land of the dead, they will be mad spirits, ghosts without sanity, shame, memory, or personality, personifications of trauma. And Etruscans, like anyone else, don't like that idea, especially as relates to the honored dead, kings, loved ones, that sort of thing. So the powerful among the Etruscans had, as a part of their funeral, a ritual designed to distract the gods, like throwing red meat at a guard dog that's badly trained. You're hoping that the guard dog won't be able to resist a bloody piece of steak, and a good guard dog will. A good guard dog doesn't eat except at the hand of his owner. But a bad guard dog might very well stop and eat the steak, and you could drug the steak and put the dog to sleep, or you could just let it, rely on the steak being a distraction, and you can get by. What the gods are being thrown is a bloody steak. Men who have been condemned for other crimes, prisoners of war, murderers, kidnappers, rapists, whatever, were to be executed in a singular way. They would be men of the sword, of the short sword, of the gladius. They would be gladiators. And what they would do is they would be matched and fight to the death. Usually both gladiators would die. One quickly, one slowly, because you get sliced and diced on without hospital care, you're going to die. And that was the point. And the occasional survivor of the gladiatorial games, that was an uncommon thing, and they dealt with it. But by throwing all of these gladiator souls at the gods, the Etruscans and later the Romans were hoping that the honored dead soul would make the passage from this life to the afterlife without being harrowed, without being ravaged, without being destroyed or damaged. Gladiator games throughout the rest of Rome's history are always called funeral games or funerary games, and they are always somehow connected to the memory or memorialization of some great person recently or long dead. So that comes to Rome from the Etruscans. And we'll talk more about gladiator games as we go on. Another thing is augury. Augury is predicting the future based upon your observation of the behavior of birds. For example, there's a story about the Roman Emperor Claudius. Claudius was the fourth Roman emperor. He was the grandnephew of, actually, he was the nephew of Augustus, and a descendant of not only Augustus, he was a descendant of Mark Antony. But Claudius stuttered. He was hunched. He had a limp. He drooled. He belched. He farted. He didn't really have an ability to move well. The amazing thing is that he wasn't discarded at birth for having all these birth defects. He was considered a phoebe and a cripple. And he became the object of jokes of his family. Well, one day, Claudius, as a child, is playing with the other children of the imperial household at a country villa. And the adults are sitting around sipping wine and telling stories, and the children are playing in the woods and down the hillside. And a guest arrives, a very honored guest, a great augur, a reader of the signs, a reader of birds, a high priest of prophecy that is very famous, probably the most famous at that time. And they invite him in and sit him down and feast him for lunch, and they have a nice time. I mean, one of the good things about being in the imperial family is you have the most interesting guests. Anyway, the kids come running up, and they're shouting and shouting, and one of the adults says, "Silence! What's going on here?" "Well," they say, "we were playing, and we saw this eagle struggling with something it had just picked up. And then the thing that was struggling fought, and it fought its way free, and it fell. And we all tried to catch it, but look who caught it. There's Claudius trembling and holding this bloody wolf cub that had been grabbed by an eagle. And the wolf cub fought itself free and was basically in shock, trembling. If you've never seen a person or an animal in shock, sometimes they tremble. And the kids basically say, "Can we keep it?" And the parents say, "Well, think about it. Go get the animal cleaned up." And they got the slaves and servants to help. And so Claudius carried the pup away. And they all looked at the augur. "Does that mean anything?" And the augur says, "I swear you all to silence." Of course it means something. It means something very grave. The signs couldn't be clearer. The eagle is destined. The wolf pup, is Rome. Someday destiny will render Rome so miserable as to be in the near-death state like that puppy. And that young imperial nephew will save it. He will be the savior of Rome. They don't know whether to laugh or scoff. Claudius is a Phoebe. Claudius is lucky to be alive. For decades after, the family mocks and makes fun of Claudius, but he survives. And he survives the reigns of murderous emperors like Caligula and Tiberius. Augury is studying the future by studying the flights and behavior of birds. What that augur was saying turned out to be true. And it's in a couple of the histories of the 12 Caesars by Suetonius, and I think it's referenced also in Tacitus. So the Romans from the Etruscans get an intense interest in the behavior of birds, which they view as prophetic. If an eagle lands on your grandfather's tomb, it may mean something. Anyway, thank you. Have a wonderful day. B-Day people will stay. A-Day people will go.
That was yesterday.
Why would he keep B-Day people?
That's what happened yesterday.
Okay, well, we'll do that this week. Next week we'll work it out. So fine. Whoever didn't go yesterday gets to go today. And I guess that's B-Day. Okay. Okay. Wait, if A-Day was here yesterday,
No, B-Day was here.
B-Day was here yesterday. Okay.
It's like, we go out on the day that, like, so A-Day is Monday and Wednesday, so they go out.
Okay. Fair enough. Thank you. This whole thing confuses me. Oh! Bye!